So currently in the startup space, we are in the fintech era. In fact, there are some people that even complain that there are too many fintech apps. But we're in the fintech space, and a lot of problems still has to be solved. We might be having too many startups trying to solve the same problem, but there's so many problems in the fintech space that remain unsolved. So it's still a very big space. What if one wants to start something like that? What are the policies? What are the approvals? What are the audits or the technology required? Let's start with the policies and approvals first. The policies, approvals, audit. What kind of things? Like, okay, let's say you and I want to start something like that.
Okay, so one of the first thing to do is to actually understand the legal landscape.
Okay.
So, and that one will require an extensive research. What problem are you trying to solve? That is where to start from.
Okay.
So the moment you're able to identify the problem you're trying to solve, you need to be able to also figure out what are the legal frameworks that permits me to be able to do this, to solve this problem.
Okay.
So, and that brings us to the regulatory compliance we talked about.
Okay.
So there are different regulatory licenses that are being issued by the central bank.
Okay.
Depending on what you want to do. So what you're able to achieve and all of that.
Yeah.
So sometimes what you're solving does not require a PSSB license.
Okay.
So because you're not a payment service bank, so what you're just solving doesn't need that high level of licensing and regulations and all of that. So your requirements will not be as much.
Okay.
But the higher to carrying out banking services, the more you get to that, you tend towards that direction, the more the requirements, the more you need to actually do before you get a license from the central bank. Okay. So there are different kinds of license. So you need to research. Yeah. So I'm not going to start mentioning all of those things here, but you need to do your research.
Are there like consultants
that you need to do? Yes, there are consultants.
Because I know that you can even function as a consultant.
Yes.
For that kind of thing.
Yes, there are consultants, that can help you bring out all the things that you need to do, the kind of licensing you need to do and all of that. Okay. And then it's also important to engage a lawyer as well. Because most of those things are legal in the requirements are legal in nature. Okay. Start seeing them mentioning some of them are even driven by legislation. Okay. So you find out that you actually need a lawyer to do a proper interpretation for you so that you'll be able to do the right thing and get your licensing. Okay. So that is very important. So you need to get your licensing, your legal structure right. Okay. So that you'll be able to get the correct licensing that is required for the problem you're trying to solve. Okay. With your fintech solution.
Okay. That's so what are just mention some of the some of the licenses
so
want to do this want to do this just
I'll mention one especially, which is one of the systems I've worked on. Like if you want to do card services, for instance, you are required to have a PCI DSS certification. Okay. So what the PCI DSS is the body that regulates the activities of card services. Okay. And what they do is that they audit your system. So there are things they require in terms of your infrastructure, your application, your encryption, all those things, how you keep those PAN on the card. Okay. One of the rules there is that you never keep it open anywhere in the database. You must, or when you are keeping it, it must always be encrypted. Okay. Because someone can sneak into your database, even your staff, and copy somebody's PAN and go and use it to do what he wants to do. So you have to be very careful.
I've been that powerful before. I had access. I could transfer money to myself. Just make myself a millionaire anytime I wanted. I've had that kind of power before.
So the PCI DSS compliance certification will take care of all those needs. So it's very critical. So even if you want to integrate with all these card services, MasterCard, Visa card, Verve, and the likes, they will not integrate with you if you are not certified PCI DSS.
So it's an international certification?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's a global thing.
Global. Oh, wow.
Yes. Nice. So all banks in Nigeria have it. All fintechs that do card services have it. Yes. So there are some lesser auditing stuff they do also. That's if you're not going to be the main card service provider.
Yeah.
But somehow maybe you built a payment gateway, but somehow you are interacting with people's cards as well. But of course, you are using it through another fintech organization that has the full PCI DSS. They have, I can't remember the name right now, but they have an auditing they will do for you as well, just to ensure that you are compliant. Okay. So if you want to do a lot of the fintechs we have today, some of them, because they want to have a good level of being able to transact, they acquire microfinance bank licenses. Yeah. So that covers all.
I think Piggyvest is something like that.
Yes,
I think so.
Piggyvest, even Money Point, most of these guys. That's once they have that license, it allows them to carry out a wide range of transactions. So they being able to process cards becomes easier. Okay. Because now their card system will be integrated with their core banking systems as well. So there's a marriage already happening between those two. Yeah. So that's why you see that some of them are issuing cards. Okay. I know OPay uses I think the PSSB license. They don't use the microfinance bank license. Okay. So if you go on your banking app, there are some banking apps that have a way they segregated them. The ones that are MFB related, the ones that are not. So if you want to pay someone on OPay now, the name you will see is OPay Digital Services Limited. So you won't see OPay Microfinance Bank or something. You see OPay Digital Service. So that's to tell you that the kind of license they are using is not exactly. However, that also allows them. It doesn't mean that the license doesn't allow them to do some services as well, but there may be some restrictions as related to transaction caps and all of that. Like sometimes you may need to be given, depending on the license you have, you may need to be reporting to CBN every month, about your transactions and all of that. So you just need to understand what you want to do before you go and start talking about which license is appropriate for you.
Approvals, which bodies you need to talk to, and so exactly. That's gold. That's gold. Now, are there certain technologies that are required, like or not allowed? Okay, I think we'll still get there. We'll still get to that other one. But are there like certain technologies? We've talked about infrastructure, definitely the code and everything. But are there like some technologies? You can just go on the surface now, because the next question we're going to go deeper into that. Okay. But like, are there some technologies required or some that are like frowned upon?
Okay, so a lot of it depends. It's still I will still say that a lot of things depends on what you want to achieve. Okay. And the reason is this: some technologies will help you to get to the market faster. Okay. While some would not. Especially when you start, for instance, you're building a mobile app, you want to go native. It means you will build your Android app separately, you build your iOS separately. That would take a lot of time, resources, money, and all of that. Now, some technologies, sometimes you may just need to use cross-platform technologies that will help you to You build once, you roll out on both sides. But that one too comes with its own demerits. So you have to be careful. You have to know what you want to do. So there is no specific technology that is allowed. But most times when you find yourself having to work for, from my own experience, having to work for these industries, most times they will specify the stack you should use for them.
Okay.
So you don't have the choice to choose a stack. They'll tell you use this stack, and most of those stacks are because they have they're actually designed for building robust enterprise systems.
Okay.
So they make the whole work, and then they have some level of security. They are not open source stuffs.
Okay.
So the moment you start using open source stuffs, banks will start frowning at whatever you're doing, because they know that somewhere
everybody can
somebody has the code of, the source of what you use to build that system, and can just plant something inside.
So even if
I've seen some NPM packages, for instance, that had malwares.
That so, in your, I know they do, but like you've seen them in practice.
I've seen them
in financial apps,
and they will be not in. I've not really, most of the financial apps I've had to work on. I didn't use any open source stuff.
Open source,
yes. So, but you find out that a package that is supposed to give you a certain behavior is behaving in another certain behavior, and there's this inconsistency. You just know that there's a problem, but you may not even be able to point that problem to that particular package. Until you start reading, and problem will lead to problem. You start looking for what is not lost, and you now figure out that this is actually the problem.
That even kind of makes sense for like when you're using a public package.
Yes,
definitely. With most authors don't have any malicious intent or stuff like that, but like it could be taken advantage of. Like an author can have a package. He knows that this company is using it. He releases an update. You would just happily install it, but
because it's open source, someone does something on it and he pushes, and then like the guy comes request, so it can happen.
That's like I said, we'll talk more on the technologies in the next listing. We will drill down. So, but at least that's been some helpful information in terms of setting up these fintech startups and companies. Okay, so now we're going to talk about technologies, right? We have been speaking on the surface a lot: policy, structure, architecture, looking at the core problems, looking at the hiring and technological structure of fintechs and banks and stuff. Now let's look at the stacks. What would you say are the most predominant stacks that you have come across? You talked about working with some things, some technologies that are not open source, and I think from our discussions, you've told me of sometimes you have to buy licenses of some very premium technologies like that, even in thousands of dollars and stuff like that. But what stacks, language frameworks have you seen that have been kind of predominant in your work and in everything you've seen in the industry so far?
Okay, like I said earlier, right? So there are actually it depends on what you want to do, and there are lots of technologies out there, and it depends on your specific needs. So you can do a mixture, but largely in the banking sector, especially, they use more of the Java and the .NET stacks.
Okay.
Yes. So, and the reason is because these stacks are very, very useful in enterprise applications, and they have a very robust ecosystem. And they help you to build applications that are scalable. So even their structure, their framework already forces you to engage in good practices.
Okay.
And to also be able to write readable codes, be able to build systems that perform well. Some things have been optimized for you. You don't have to do them. So some of these, I know some people that write Java may have, but I can tell you that today, even Java has really advanced beyond what it used to be. I remember there are times before they started doing much of this ORM for Java.
Okay.
You know, .NET comes with the .NET framework and all those entity framework. So it comes with all of that and does ORM for you seamlessly. You know, but previously in Java too, you have to start coding everything one after the other. But now there are ORMs on Java that works magic too. That you don't need to write a whole bunch of code.
Queries and stuff.
They are still scalable. They are still usable. They are still very much adaptable to whatever you want to do as it is now.
Okay.
So those are the main ones that are actually being used. However, like I said, it's not like if you don't use them, your fintech or whatever you're doing is going to fail. No, it's not going to fail. You just need to know which technology to adapt.
Okay.
You get, and you have to consider a lot of factors, such as scalability, the expertise of your team. You know, you have to look at all of that. Security, and then what do you want to achieve at the end of the day? How fast do you want to get to the market? Do you have time? You know, all those things. You have to look at a lot of those things holistically before you choose a stack that you want to use. So you have to now looking at the capacity of your team, for instance, how flexible are they to adapt new technologies? Because also new technologies are coming up, and some of them are taking note of. So you need to also check all those things, all those factors. So because of these emerging technologies that keep coming up here and there. So in the enterprise space, majorly, a lot of a lot of tools are actually stacks are actually being used. But the predominant one, the ones that are prevalent, is the .NET and the Java. Yes.
I think I haven't been in the enterprise space so much. I've been more in the public web space.
Yes.
But I get your point, because I believe that I've worked with .NET 2 before.
Yes.
And I've worked with you using .NET before. I probably was building the front end, and you were doing the .NET part and everything. I've also worked with some Java guys before, and I've gotten to appreciate their stability. And I think a lot of decisions that were being taken developing these languages had enterprise in mind, had the security that enterprise required, had the stability that enterprise required, the structure that enterprise required, and the scalability requirements. So unlike, because I'm about to throw some fun languages in now, and we'll see how they stand. Even though I believe that there's no silver bullet.
No, exactly. That's why I said it's not one size fits all.
Yeah, exactly.
So your specific needs will determine what stack.
Like, I believe that most of the time when we are talking about these core technologies, we are talking about where the business logic really resides.
Exactly.
You can build your APIs with something else that feeds off
on those.
On those ones, you can build your cool APIs, maybe probably the public-facing APIs, for example, Paystack as an API, Stripe as an API, and everything. Most likely they were not built with Java or this thing, but the underlying where the main business logic resides, definitely are more of these tried and trusted languages, systems, frameworks that have been built. So where can Node.js or PHP find themselves? Like, I know that, like I said, sure, there are some of the web front ends.
Yes.
When I even say front end now, I'm not saying front end in terms of I'm not saying front end in terms of interface. I'm saying front end in terms of like a service. A service in a microservice architecture.
That's like a customer facing application.
Yeah, like APIs are apps you need to consume. Some of the services like a notification service, like a login service, like just different services that also play around the architecture. They also surround the architecture. So where are the places that languages like PHP, Node.js, especially not being strongly typed, that's one of the things that they make enterprise people really embrace these languages, because they are not typed languages, unlike C# and Java, which are heavily typed languages, strongly typed languages. So where can those other languages play? Because I believe that there are developers, a lot of developers of these languages also want to play in the fintech space, and they want to know where they fit.
Okay, so some of these things will still find expression in the fintech. Actually, it's just that you have to do some extra work of security layering and proper structuring of those applications. And if you don't do that, you're going to have a lot of problems. So what I noticed that some people do is that they, for instance, when they want to do Node.js, they avoid the use of too many packages.
Okay.
For instance, so they want to write everything natively. So what that means is that you must have a strong knowledge of Node, how it works, and all of that. Just the same way these people that build packages, when they build packages and put it out there for you to get from the NPM store, place. So you now need to build that package that you want to use. You will build it yourself. So it's custom built. So while you're doing it, you have a full control of what is going on in it. So these things still have a place. It's just that the approach, the strategy would have to change.
True.
Yes.
True. I think NPM used to, I can't remember what it really was. NPM used to have this enterprise part.
Yes, I think I've seen it one time, but it's been a while.
Yeah, I've not heard of it too for a while. Like they render that service to companies.
Yes.
So that you have stable packages, because in the wild, anybody can just pull their package.
And in that enterprise, I think what they did was that you can even have some customizations around those packages. So those are not the public packages that you can find here and there.
And you can even host your own NPM server.
Yes. So I'll give, for those that are doing Node, for instance, and JavaScript, I'll give you an example of what I just talked about, how you can also use Node and all of that in the fintech space and all. You if you recall very well, Paystack has a package on NPM. They have an SDK. They call it React Paystack
SDK. Yeah,
they built it themselves. So if you want to also work in that space, that is what you need to do.
True.
You build your own.
You build your own
and use it.
You control the true. Yes. That's important. And but like front end is free. You can you can use your Angular view or React.
It's not totally free actually, because you still need to devise different kinds of strategies.
Okay.
Now, the front end, even React itself, React, you can run your React app, for instance, on server side, either on the server side or the client side. On the client side, yeah. On the client side means it will render from your browser.
Yeah.
On the server side means that it will render from the server. It will just spit out an HTML.
Yeah.
So it's up to you what you want to do with the HTML.
Yeah.
So you may have to change from processing things on the browser to processing it on the server, you can have more control. So you may just, depends on the need, you may need to have to tweak those front end technologies so that you will. So you see that you will have to do a little extra work to actually get them to where you want them to be,
standard,
as compared to when you just pick these. And these legacy, these traditional systems. However, I understand that the knowledge, the learning curve for these some of these old stacks, that's .NET and the Java stacks,
Yeah.
the learning curve may be a little bit steep, but notwithstanding, it's doable. So your goal is what will drive you.
True.
At the end of the day.
And I think one of the things that kind of discourages people from those stacks is because
those licenses.
No. I think the industries where they are being used, there isn't so much jobs as Node.js and all these other and PHP, Laravel that are being used by almost everybody. So there are more jobs.
Yes.
But for .NET, Java, you most likely work in all those enterprise spaces, and they don't have like so many jobs out there. There are jobs, but
well, I think there are jobs.
Different
there
levels.
are jobs because in that space there are not much people doing it. And
so there's less competition.
There's less competition,
less
and
jobs
then
still.
It's not less jobs.
Okay.
If I can't tell you the number of times people go to my LinkedIn page and they specify that, I see that you have these .NET skills or these Java skills, and they are like, hey, come. I ignore because maybe they don't have what I'm looking for as well. So, of course, so even today, if I get someone that is sound in this stack, personally, I can guarantee the person, I can recommend the person to places where they get stable jobs. So there are not much people doing it. So because of that, a lot of people are now kind of forced to also want to adopt these other new technologies.
Yeah.
And it's not like the .NET and Java are sleeping too. They are also improving continuously, and they are doing magical things. That
even when I used .NET, then it was wonderful.
It was
the
good.
MVC,
exactly.
This thing, because definitely there was the web forms era.
Exactly. Now there's
dark days.
Now there's Blazor now. There's MIUI stuff. This MyU. So there's a lot, and that MyUI stuff, I can't pronounce it well. They did it in such a way that you can even use it to build mobile applications as well.
So is Xamarin still?
Yes,
popular?
it is. It is
Interesting, because I think they did that too for their mobile angle. They took time.
Though at the time, they had some setbacks in terms of it was so buggy. I actually did Xamarin.
Yeah, I know that you did Xamarin a lot.
It was buggy, so they had to do a whole lot of revamping and all of that. But at that time, people had lost interest.
So that's always sad when it comes to certain technology.
React Native came to the rescue. All these other Ionic came to the rescue. So why would I be struggling with Xamarin that's giving me a headache all the time?
True. I think the last question I'll ask in this section is, and it's quite important, how do you maintain stability of versioning? Especially these open source technologies, they are just changing. Like, I think there's something that I thought about recently. Like, the JavaScript community does not need more frameworks. What we need is more stability. We need more stability, more things not changing. Why people were able to depend on Java, why people were able to depend on .NET, is because they didn't change for a long time. Like, when you can bet on a technology that is not going to change for the next 5 years, you can build a lot of stuffs on it. And when it's 5 years, it's time. Just like the way they release games. You have PS4 came out, before PS5 came out, PS4 had come out like how many years ago? So, how do you maintain stability, especially versioning? Because these new technologies today, they are releasing new versions, they're releasing new stuff. Fine, we understand the patches and stuff like that. Those are all good, security patches and all that. But and again, paradigms in this thing. Like, first is all about, let's do single page applications. Now, let's do server side rendering. Now, let's do React server components and all those kind of things. Just keep, like, how do you maintain sanity, especially in an industry that requires a lot of stability?
Okay, so for me, I use more of these traditional guys, the .NET and the other stacks.
Yeah.
But whenever I need to work using these new technologies, of course, I do React very well. I do Node very well and all of that. So I'm not, based on my experience with the .NET and the Java frameworks, I'm not quick in adopting technologies. I want to see something stable. So most times I would want to see people's review. I will wait for a while, let people use it. And let's see their complaints. After their complaints, did they solve the problem? Yes. They didn't solve the problem. I will keep my version. You that are updating, keep updating. Me, I will stay here. So unless it's a security issue, that's when I would want to quickly, okay, let me also update so that I will avoid this. But just like the way iPhone is, before you even get the sense of, okay, iPhone 14 is out, 15 was already out. So if you want to keep chasing those things, you will not, you just find yourself in a circle and you keep having, some of those changes are breaking changes. So you cannot just afford to just be switching from one version to another like that, because it can break your code. And the people that worked on it may not know, because your own scenario, your use case is different.
It's different, yeah. Because a lot of people are always quick to start advertising the good things. Oh, it now has these new features now, and FOMO will start catching you like, well, you know. But I don't think the fintech industry is where you want to be allowing people.
See, like we said, you cannot afford a bad egg in the fintech industry.
You can't afford an unstable, callous person.
So you always have to wait. You have to use. Sometimes you even have to be okay. Like for instance, now you know that there's this in Node, for instance, you know, this Node version manager, right? This NVM. Now, I normally use it. I use it a lot because it depends on the project I'm working on. So if there are certain versions of Node that is required or NPM required, I handle all of that from there. So if I start a particular project with a version, and then I see that a new version is up again, and I need to use that new version, and I notice it's stable, I won't be quick in changing my old application to use it. Because the moment you start doing that, you start finding out that there are a lot of break-ins and all of that. So I want to keep working. So even when I'm now, to make it even worse, if you're now working in a team, one person would change the version. You have not changed your version. You're trying to merge what they have done, what other people have done, as in you're trying to pull and synchronize your own project as well. It starts breaking. You start cracking your head. At that instance, though, you may have to be forced to change to a newer version, or to force them to drop their version down to your. You have to just be careful, because this versioning thing can break your code if you're not careful. So you have to make sure that you are sure of that the new versions you are taking in. So me, I'm not very keen about this technology is out, everybody's rushing there. I just sit down, I'm looking at all of you and observing you. When you are done, sometimes you find out these technologies come with a lot of noise. After a few months, it dies down.
And sometimes the people that release it are still testing it themselves. And still looking at the users to get feedback.
So at that point, you don't want to start using those kind of unstable stuffs on your fintech systems, because you're going to run into trouble.
It's not even in that kind of space that you can be risking all those kind of things. So finally, I want to ask, for those in our audience that know that someday they're going to find themselves in the fintech space, or are just even preparing themselves for the fintech space, or I just want to know that they have that range. Even if they are not in the fintech space right now, they know that they can also play in the fintech space. They want to make sure that they have that range. How does one prepare him or herself as a programmer for the fintech space?
Okay, so from our discussions, you find out that the fintech space is not a space where anybody that just wants to write program, or that just feels like, hey, I can do this thing, or it's not a space anybody can just jump into because of the intricacies involved.
The discipline.
Yes, it requires high level of discipline, high level. In fact, if you can keep secret very well, you will thrive. In space.
That's something. That's something
Yes.
too.
Because you're going to be dealing with a lot of sensitive information, sensitive data. You need to handle them in a certain way that requires you to be very meticulous.
True. You can't just go home and be gisting your friends.
No. Yeah, it's a big feat, but you can't go and start. There are things I've done I cannot say here.
You can't go and boast.
Because if I say them, I'm going to be giving out too much information. I could put myself at risk and put those involved too at risk.
Sure.
So you find out that you can't even discuss it with your closest friend. You know, so you need to know how to keep secret. And that's why, to enforce you keeping secrets, that's why they want you to always sign an NDA. And I know most organizations, when you play with their NDA, they come with you legal full force, and you won't enjoy it. Yeah, so you have to be that's it. Anyway, so there are specific skills, technical skills you need to know. You need to have excellent industry knowledge.
Okay.
So, and then you need to have deep understanding of the unique challenges in the space and how to surmount them. So it is important. Now, a lot of sometimes when I at a point I was reflecting on someone that wants to come into the fintech space. I always have this strong feeling, this strong opinion that don't be a novice when you want to do fintech. You don't have to be. You shouldn't be a novice in the technology industry, because you will run into trouble. That was why earlier on, you remember we talked about having someone to usher you in.
I want to mentor you.
So someone that can check. Yes, you can write programs, but can you write programs that would thrive in the tech space,
In the fintech space? Yeah.
So you have to check all of that. So your technical skills must be top notch. And don't go and restrict yourself to only a particular technology stack, because, for instance, like I said earlier, you may be required to integrate with legacy systems and all of that. What
protocols?
So you need to be vast. So you need to learn as much technical skills as you can, the .NET stack, the Java stack, but that does not mean that you should be you should be a jack of all of them.
Yeah.
So sometimes project requirements have certain things. The more vast you are, the better for you anyway.
Yeah.
But for beginners, I always advocate that learn one stack, master it. The principles are usually the same.
We're talking about the back end guys now.
Yes.
So
for back end, I would advise you to use your regular .NET or Java,
because they have been tailored
exactly, and they have
for enterprise.
They have proven to be sustainable. They have proven to be reliable. So there's just no other way around these systems. If you don't, you just have to know your onions very well for you to work in those space. But like I said, there are all these other stacks you can use too, but
probably in less critical places.
Yes. So you may, and that will also require you to now start building those things that they have already done for you in the .NET and in the Java space. You have to now do it yourself. So you just find out that but it's important to know all these other systems too, because at one point or the other, you may even be required to, maybe you need a third-party service that uses them, these new technologies.
Like Node.js and
you still need to know how to interact with them as well, so that you can get the same result. So you need to know how to handle databases, as in you need to understand
Database.
Yes, you need to know how to structure them properly. You need to know how to write queries, correct queries. So all these things you can learn them. So there are technical skills that are very important for you to know. So security basics, you need to know them.
Sure.
You need to understand encryptions and what have you. All these things that you use to ensure security on your systems and all of that.
Authentication, authorization.
Exactly. So
Systems.
you need to also know how to use correct architectures. Breaking down your apps into APIs, microservices. I think we mentioned that earlier as well.
Okay,
So your technical skill needs to be top notch. And the only way your technical skills can be top notch is that you have to learn these skills and you have to be good with them.
Yeah.
So those skills will help you. And it's also good if you have experiences with applications that have gone to production. There are certain challenges you will encounter or your users will encounter you would have had to solve.
So
they will help you also when building your fintech.
So even you can get those other from any other space. It doesn't have to be fintech, but it would help when you are trying to
yes, definitely
know ins and outs of scalability and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's why mentors are important. I like the fact that you mentioned mentors because a lot of people want to go into this space. Even when InterSuite started, then it just brought a bunch of developers. Some of them were still growing, but I think they had mentors, they had people, and they were just daring. they were in a new space, and they were daring a lot of things, and they were able to make it work. So I believe that just always be a good learner.
Yes.
A good learner. Be interested in learning. Be interested in how things work, because that's where problems come.
That's where they come from, yes.
Where problems come. You learn something better through failures. So once you have that and you have a very good mentor, because I don't even think anybody is just going to throw a novice into their fintech.
Nobody will do that.
And even all those audits and stuff, they already bounce people that are not qualified out.
Yes.
There
are even certain requirements for instance, when some of these organizations, banks and all, they want to work on their systems, they have certain requirements of personnel be deployed.
Team members.
Okay, this person must have this certification, or this person must know this, must show evidence of this, on all of that. So you see that you can't just bring
there's a rite of passage.
Exactly. So it's very critical and important for one to know that.
That's fantastic. Oh my God, today has been
and there's also another thing that you need to understand. We've talked about it earlier on as well. So you need to understand the industry.
Oh yeah, domain knowledge.
Yes. So you need to understand the industry and how it works.
True.
So, and that is what will help you to know, okay, what are the regulatory compliance, what are the requirements, what do they expect me to do, all those things. Then how payment systems work. You need to understand it fully. Okay. And then you need to understand how to manage risk.
True.
So if a transaction fails for a customer or is wrongly transferred to another customer's account due to a glitch in the system or something happened somewhere, what mechanism do you have in place to handling it? So what this means is that you need to know how to handle risk, how to be a critical thinker, so that you can solve some of these problems ahead of time before they even occur. So
assume all problems. Find solution.
Okay. So it's important for you to know how the industry works, the legal framework, the licenses you need to do whatever you want to do, how payment systems work, various payment systems. what happens when a payment fails, all those details, to know all those things. What is the acceptable way? What is the standard for handling this kind of issue, managing of risk that you encounter in the course of executing that your idea and all of that? You need to know all of that as well. So beyond technical skills, you need a robust industry knowledge, and sometimes you may have to pay for it.
Oh yeah. Yes, sometimes you have to pay for knowledge. Yeah, please. It's not every knowledge that is free. Sometimes you have to pay for seminars. You have to pay for workshops.
Most times you should pay for it so you can get value,
get quality.
And you get to have the privilege of asking questions, the most silliest question, because you paid for it. So the person owes you to answer your questions.
True. Yeah. So I can get direct questions too.
Exactly.
And I think I'll just drop one extra thing here. Because some of them were asking, okay, how do I learn when I'm not in the industry? When I don't, I'm not inside. I don't have they didn't attach me to a mentor. I don't have a team and a mentor. Try to look for engineering blogs. Exactly. Engineering blogs. Read engineering blogs. AWS has engineering blogs. Microsoft has a whole architecture section. It's so big and so useful. I am still consuming it. In as much as it doesn't specifically talk about fintech, but it's going to tell you about a lot of engineering problems that you face. A lot of strategies that you can use, fault tolerance strategies, scalability strategies, architectural patterns and stuff that you can use. So those are things that you want to also consume if you are not already in this space. And even when you are even in this space, you also have to consume them.
You
need them more.
I was going to also talk about continuous improvement.
Yeah.
Because you can't take that out. Fintech is a space that is experiencing rapid innovations.
And problems too. New problems every day.
You can't catch up. So how do you keep up with the speed at which the fintech industry is moving?
Yeah.
Is by being abreast to what is going on, what is new.
Yeah.
What is the next problem? What do I need to look out for? So you need to be up to date.
Yeah.
So that you'll be able to also know how you would fit in and how you'll be able to surmount even the challenges or whatever issues you may come across.
Yeah.
So it's important to actually be up to date.
So continue learning. This has been a very fantastic session.
Yes, it is.
We have learned a lot. Everybody has learned. Even the person that is handling the camera has learned. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
That is going to be a face we're going to still be seeing on this channel because we have some things in the works. We're also going to be doing some fun hardware stuff.
Exactly.
We want to build computers. We want to, we don't see so much of that content, especially in this African space a lot. We want to build computers, networks and stuff like that. Play around with stuff.
Yes.
Look at the kind of servers that they use to host things in banks and just play around with stuff and like that. So. Yeah, thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate it. It has been a very wonderful session. Thank you for coming to share all this wealth of knowledge with us. I've known you for almost 20 years now, and you have been in the tech space since then. And you've been working in this fintech space for over a decade now. And it's so amazing to have you come and share all the information with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
So that wraps up another episode of Tech Stories. This has most likely been in 2 parts or 3 parts. So if you have watched up to this point, you really want to be in fintech, you really want to be in it. and I hope that you have been able to gain 1 or 2 things. So till next time on this channel, join us. We're going to be having another person here to come and tell us more wonderful things about the stories in tech.